Welcome to Real Estate Success DFW, the podcast where top producing agents from Dallas-Fort Worth come together to share their stories and strategies behind their success. I'm Shaune Corbett, your host, and with over 300 million sold in the local real estate market and the honor of being best of B multiple times, I know what it takes to make it in this market. Each episode, we're going to dive into the world of real estate, learning from the very best in the industry. If you're ready to level up your game, you're in the right place. Let's get started. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining Real Estate Success DFW with Shaune Corbett. I have got a guest, Kirstine Openshaw. How are you, Kirstine?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you having me on.
We're going to have a good conversation today. She's got a great story in the sense that, for some of you getting new into real estate, you might move from one market to another. Imagine coming from a different country and trying to build your brand and your success. Very few can do it. Kirstine was able to do that coming from the UK. I want to hear a little bit about that story. And she's since opened her own brand. It looks like it's with you and your husband. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. My husband got licensed after our oldest was born because I couldn't keep it going by myself. So he's licensed with me. Yes.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And then she also has her own podcast. And I want to kind of talk about what that's about. So this is going to be a really good conversation. So let's start with your story. We all have our own unique stories. And I don't know very many people coming from the UK opening and getting involved in a local real estate business, but I'll let you kind of fill us in. And then I know you had a child through all of that, and that kind of changed your trajectory as well. So why don't you open up and kind of tell us a little bit about what got you into real estate?
Yeah, definitely. So I did move over here in 2006. It was very much a opportunity that just arose kind of out of nowhere, and I just jumped on it. I did what I call my trial marriage, which I was married for 5 years, decided that, we parted ways pretty amicably. It just wasn't the right thing for us. And I ended up going back to the UK for a year to kind of decide what really did I want to do? Like, why was I in the US? What was my goal with being here? Because of course I'm 5,000 miles from home. All of my family's in the UK and friends and everything else. And I never planned to move here. I came over here on vacation. So I ended up meeting my now husband while I was there. We actually knew each other in high school, and it was this crazy roller coaster ride. We had a 4-year, almost 5-year long distance relationship thanks to immigration battles. And then once he finally moved over here in 2016 was when we moved to this city, to Weatherford. And I had always had an interest in real estate. So that's when I took my exams and started building the business. In amongst all of that, we had done 2 rounds of IVF to have our oldest child that had not worked. Then on our 3rd round, which that was basically one of the main driving forces, they say you have to have your why with real estate because it's a grind, right? And one of our biggest whys was we had to pay out of pocket for IVF. So it was like $50-something thousand to pay for that. And all of my first real estate closings paid towards that. So that was our huge motivator for me to get it going and hit the ground running. And so, yeah, I never really bought into the limiting beliefs of, well, you're not from here, nobody knows you, you don't have your groups, your sphere. I didn't have any of that to lean on. And we really, really just heavily relied on my why of getting going and having that as our main focus.
Okay. And so you end up having Oliver, right?
Lincoln.
Yes. Okay. So you had Lincoln. Mm-hmm. And I know you had talked about there were some health concerns and things like that came through that. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because that also affects your why as well.
Yeah, that was a definite huge part of it. Our first motivator was having the child. And then once we were like, yay, we're pregnant, now we get to go through this part of life's roller coaster. We were probably 13 or so weeks into the pregnancy, which is like first trimester. Now you're supposed to be able to breathe a sigh of relief because you're into more of the viability stage of the pregnancy. We didn't get to that stage because that's when they found he was going to be born with a heart defect. He was born with half a heart. So I know a lot of people are familiar with some form of heart defect, and usually like it's an ASD, like a hole in the heart, something like that. he was born with only half of his heart going to be able to function. So the whole pregnancy, of course, was massively high risk. We had follow-ups every week, sometimes twice a week. So trying to do real estate and then driving to the other side of Dallas from where we are every couple of days, it felt like, was crazy, balancing showings, doing showings on the way to the doctors, on the way back from the doctors, trying to stay, very decompartmentalized and focusing on the clients when we were with them and then focusing on what we had going on when we were there. Then when he was born, he had his first full open heart surgery when he was 5 days old. He was born as an emergency C-section as well, which of course is always interesting. Plus, when you're self-employed, trying to make sure that clients are taken care of, but they also understood what we were dealing with and going through at the same time. And once he was born, he initially got discharged from hospital about 8, 9 weeks in, once he was born. Then we were only home for just shy of 2 weeks, and he ended up staying in the hospital again. He coded following a routine cath where they just wanted to get basic levels of his pressures in his heart and whatnot. He coded, and then they kept him inpatient, and we had a very crazy 6-month hospital stay where we were living in the hospital, running the business from the hospital, running it from the waiting room, running it from his hospital room, running out plywood. My husband would trade off when I had to go for a showing. He would get off work and come and sit with him. He was never left alone in the hospital. So it was a huge adjustment, of course, just new parenthood in general. But then also this added layer of complexity. It just really made us, I think, highly, highly focused on our why, and also really making sure that what we did was necessary. I definitely never had the opportunity to waste time with the wrong clients or anything like that.
Yeah, every second mattered when you
Hmm.
were deciding your opportunity cost to give up, being
Hmm.
at the doctor, or if you're going to go out there and be working, we better be making the count, every second count, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think I didn't know it at the time. I didn't recognize that that's what exactly was happening at the time because you're just in it, you're in the weeds. But that definitely is something that stuck with me throughout my career is I'm really, really in tune with just listening to my gut instinct with clients and leads and calls. And, if this person's not going to get us where we want to go as far as being our ideal client or a good fit for us or whatever it might be, if it's a seller that's calling, I didn't just jump to all listing appointments while we're in the hospital. I weighed up the pros and cons. I weighed up if they really wanted to sell. And that's just continued on to now, right? We have a really low, I don't like to call people time wasters, but for the sake of people kind of understanding it, a low time waster amount.
Well, and you probably have the ability to say sniff it out when you're talking
Yeah.
with someone. Like if you had a cold lead or something and you're talking to them, if we're going to be investing good time or if we're just running out to show a house for our own personal feels to think that, hey, it's one shot,
Yeah.
we got to make sure we know what we're going to run into and what the realistic expectation is. If we have the time and we can waste it, we can do it. But if we don't,
Yes.
we better qualify them.
Yeah,
I always use a
absolutely.
term, have them do enough for us to move to the next step, right? I mean, it'd be like
Hmm.
maybe you show one house without proof that they can qualify, but we're not going to go out and show multiple houses
Yeah.
unless I can prove that they're qualified. Okay, no, next step, I need your lender to be calling me and telling me you're good to
Hmm.
go,
Yeah. Yeah.
as
I
an
mean,
example.
I generally always do like a freebie with buyers because I do want to give them the opportunity to get to know me. I want to get to know them. That can be kind of hard just over a quick phone call, but I'm having that quick phone call. I'm not doing it off of a text or an online inquiry to say, I want to see this house here and then. My first requirement is we got to have a phone call because if we have a phone call and you're like, wrong and crazy, no, sorry, it's not happening. Not on my time.
You don't enjoy all the drama.
I don't know. I watch enough trash TV and I get my fill off of that. So,
You don't need to bring it into your real life and be part
no.
of their drama because it
Yeah, I
always
have.
gets, we're talking about buying a house. It's going to come back and attach to us somewhere.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And, it's a lot of time. I get pretty emotionally invested with my clients. Like, I buy into their why, I buy into what they're wanting to achieve so that I can really understand it from their perspective, make sure that I know exactly what they want and why and how and when. And so that way I feel like it makes me more capable and competent as far as like fighting for them. And if they're crazy, I don't need to buy into any more crazy. I have a house full of that. So,
You've got a couple of things that's really important to take away. One is that you came from a completely different country with zero. It's not like, I moved from one state to another and I still have some type of sphere that I can connect with that eventually will connect me back to my where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have any of that. So it's important for people to
Yeah.
understand you're coming from that. And then you came from an extreme reason of your why and how valuable you saw your time. Most agents are jump in the car and look and go without really considering what that opportunity costs and what they're giving up. And they're losing money as they do that.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. And I didn't have a spouse's income to necessarily rely on. I didn't have his sphere to rely on. Like we were both new here. Like in Weatherford, we knew of two people who are highly, highly unlikely to ever move from properties that they're at right now. My husband didn't know a soul. So we really didn't have anything to get started. I mean, it was literally my very first lead was from setting up my Google profile, which was completely random. And I converted them and they bought a house within a month. It was nuts.
wow. That should be a good testimony for people out there that it can be done from scratch. Don't
Mhm.
become a victim, right? We're not here waiting for the phone to ring. We can create energy and create opportunities and do basic things. I think a Google
Yes.
business profile is a very entry level basic thing
Hmm.
every agent should do. You should create a realtor.com profile. You should create a Google profile. These are all free. There's no
Yes.
reason why you shouldn't be available because they're all going to look you up. I mean,
Hmm. Oh,
you know,
100%.
you
And I
show up
always
trying to
say,
sell a house, you've never sold one before, they need at least look you up and at least understand your story.
yes. And that's it. Like if it's free, it's for me is what was basically my motto when we didn't have any spare funds. And my whole goal is just relatability with people. I want to connect with the people. And once they believe that you're kind of in it with them and you understand where they're coming from, that's the conversion, right? Conversations create conversions. And so just talking to people and asking them questions versus going in there and saying, well, I have to act the part. I have to know everything before I get there. There's no way to know everything before you get there. Just get there and then ask the questions and get to know the client.
That's really important to know the motivation. I always feel like whenever I run into problems in every transaction, there inevitably we're going to have problems. We have obvious competing interest, right? The seller wants to sell for the most, the buyer wants the best deal, and we're in between trying to settle it out and trying to use norms and some realistic
Mhm.
expectations in order to achieve that. But if you don't know the motivation, it makes it real hard to have where are we really going? How hard are they going to work to make this happen? And what's
Yeah.
really our pressure?
Yeah.
I always kind of like want to know the motivation for most of the situations. And sometimes I don't really care about the other side as much, but other times I do when it slows down and we now can work a deal and I know I've got a little bit of leverage over them. I kind of want to know what's their plan, what do they want to do? Because we're going to have to beat up the net price, unfortunately, but I at least can help them land in a good place, get what they need and move on without having to hurt them in the process. That's part
Mhm.
of the objective is to make the whole deal work. We want to make a deal that's going to work for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell people, especially if I feel any kind of resistance, because of course we are still salespeople, we are still by the general public looked at like used car salesmen. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's just what you hear a lot of people refer to realtors as. And so whenever I feel resistance, that's the big thing I lean into is listen, I get paid for advice. So if my advice sucks, I don't get paid. And as you can see, I have a track record of getting paid, AKA closings, clients I've helped. If my advice didn't work, that wouldn't be there. So clearly, having the proven track record shows my advice works. And if my advice works for them, what makes you think my advice isn't going to work for you?
Sure.
And then usually that helps them kind of go, oh, yeah, you're not going to tell me something that doesn't work because then you're not going to get paid. I don't get the house, like whatever, buyer seller side they're on. And also, it just really does pay to remember like, we don't need to make our clients wrong. They don't know what they're doing. They don't do this every day. That's not their fault. It doesn't mean we have the right to get arrogant and make them wrong for it. We need to use that to help our understanding and say, okay, clearly we're on different wavelengths here. Let's just triple check the motivation. Let's check we're on the same page about where you want to go. And then what's it going to take to get there? Let's check the expectations are really clear of what that's going to look like. It's not going to be just easy peasy HGTV lookalike. It doesn't go like that. And then you can have that conversation to help them get on board with just taking a step back and looking at the other side's perspective. Like we just had an appraisal come in $100,000 under. I was on the seller side. Everybody was ready to start hitting panic stations at full force, and the deal is dead, the sky is falling, the world is ending. And I was like, well, hold on. How about we all just agree to give me a moment and let's fight it? What's the worst that can happen? We end up in the same situation, but at least you know you tried. My sellers, of course, were on their edge of their seats because they're like, well, we're buying another house. We're supposed to be closing next week. What are we going to do? And then the buyers, of course, were like, well, the sellers are never going to come down. We can't pay that. We're out. Me and the other agent had a great conversation. Thankfully, he's someone that can look at things from another perspective. We all just basically got another perspective. They all agreed to give me some time to fight it. We got a revision of value. That didn't help any. We actually got that appraisal thrown out as erroneous, got a second appraisal done, made value as is, closed on time. Everything was fine. But just having that conversation with the buyer's agent, just having a conversation with their lender and my sellers of let's look at this from another perspective rather than the doom and gloom. What are the things we could do? Are we willing for you to get to here and have, touch on their motivation again and get what you said you wanted, getting their buy-in of, yeah, we still really want it. They all just stayed calm long enough for us to fight it, and then we won.
Love it. I mean, those are real world examples that do happen. And if you're 100,000 off, most agents are like, we'll just go ahead and some of them just send in the termination without even a
Yeah.
conversation. It's like, hold on.
Yep.
I get paid to solve problems. Give me a problem and I'm telling you, we're going to work through this one way or another. As long as my buyer wants to buy and my seller wants to sell. Like you talk about motivation, if they want to do it, sometimes you almost have to like excuse the other agent and we're just going to put a deal together that's going to make it work. And I'll give you something you can present to your party that we can win on. Can we talk briefly about mindset? Because I know that's an important element, and some of your personal experiences in your life has kind of created your view of how you approach things. And I think those are teachable moments for other agents as well. How do you
Absolutely.
look at mindset of realtors, especially those that work by themselves?
I think, it's a curse and a blessing, right? Working by ourselves. Like it's wonderful because we can self-pace, we can do it in our sweatpants. I mean, I am all for sweatpants and comfy clothes when I'm working. If I have to leave the house, it's for getting paid, right? I'm all about that. But it's also a curse in that your mind is not your friend, right? Your mind is out to stick you in survival mode. It's all about victim mentality, imposter syndrome. So it's going to start playing that soundtrack to you of, well, you're not doing it right. And you're getting on Facebook and you're looking at other agents posting closings and you're going, your mind's over here going, yeah, see, you didn't have a closing this week. You're not doing that. They're showing houses. Why aren't you showing houses? And all of this is just working against you to pull your mindset down, throw you into that victim mindset where you're just not good enough. You're just not doing, and I'm not immune to it. I fall into this where I'm like, oh, I came off my schedule this week. And then I have agents I talk to from masterminds. And I spoke to one Sunday afternoon. I was like, yeah, I didn't do my calls on Friday. She said, yeah, but you did XYZ instead, which is still moving the needle, which is still on your priority list. You didn't come off your priority list and just lay down in bed and do nothing all day. And so I still have that. I still have that imposter syndrome creep in. It's having the awareness to say, yeah, I'm not going to buy into it. I know better. Everybody, I laugh because everybody has their own ways of dealing with their kind of mindset and their victim mentality that creeps in on them. I named mine. So I have my negative Nancy. So whenever I hear that inner voice and I'm like, okay, negative Nancy, like I don't need to be saved right now. I'm fine. I'm not doing it wrong. And I can just shut it down, like acknowledge it. Yeah, thanks for that. You raised some awareness on something that I had negative thoughts about. And then I can just move on and be way more effective. But working by yourself, it's very hard to do until you train yourself to look for it.
It shocks me the amount of agents that come in that still think they're W-2s and have to be told what to do. We are an absolute entrepreneurship business. If you want to be successful, if you want to be an employee, you're going to cap your potential. You can only make so much as a buyer agent or being on someone else's team, which is no problem. Some people are meant for that. There's a place for people to play a support role. I remember I've worked several deals with a particular guy I live in Flower Mound. and he lives in Highland Village. And I've worked this market, and I've sold houses here, and I've worked several with him, and he's very good. He's like, sells a ton of houses every year, but he's always been a team member. Like he could easily in his sleep go out and start selling half as many houses and make twice as much money because he gives out a
Hmm.
massive amount of split. And he's good with not having to be responsible for any of that.
Yeah,
And
and
he-
that's it. Sometimes that's the best fit for people. I've done the team thing. I've had teammates, and that was not my thing. If I'm gonna do what I call peopling, it's gonna be with clients who are paying me. I love to help people. I love to train agents. I love to help coach. I don't want them necessarily on my team because I
well, you,
run
you don't
my
want to be
business.
tied. You don't want them tied to your success or tied to their success because
Yes.
it's always unequal. It's always
Mhm.
imbalanced, and someone's
And
going to
I
get their
just
feelings hurt.
Yeah, and I want to empower them to do it their way because human nature is to place blame. And it's, if more people, especially agents, like I hear this in agents so much where they're like, well, it's the seller's fault. They just don't understand to drop the price. Or it's the buyer's fault. Buyers are liars. That is such a crock of just rubbish because if we would just take responsibility for, hey, the seller doesn't understand where this price is coming from. The seller doesn't understand what the market's doing, and it's my job as a professional to ensure they understand it. So, what have I done to create this confusion? Hey, the buyer doesn't understand that they're safe to buy this house and it's a good investment. Why don't they understand that? What have I not explained to them as the professional? Hey, the other agent hates me. What have I done to trigger them? Like, what can I do to help clear the air and make it where my buyer can buy this listing? Whatever it might be, if more agents and just people across the world would take back responsibility for their part in creating that feeling and giving it an opinion, right? We wouldn't run into so much conflict and we would have so much more energy to go sell more houses and go do more in our business versus sitting back and going, why am I not doing it the right way? Why are they not behaving the way I want them to behave?
I love it. Yeah, we do. We sometimes we get. I find the ego really gets in the way of most transactions.
Hmm.
I mean, how often do you hear I've sold all this houses? I do it this way. Things like that. Even simple, subtle things they say like that. But even, they'll come in with guns blazing. I'm like, hey,
Hmm.
we need to make a deal happen, right? I'm not trying to win lose here, but
Yeah.
let's try to be collaborative and not try
Hmm.
to be right. You know, I do spend a lot of time with people that want to be right instead of be collaborative.
Yeah.
And they may be exactly right, but being right doesn't always help everybody get what they want to achieve.
No,
You know,
no. And so much of the ego comes from having a set opinion. And that's probably one of the hardest things for people to let go. But if you really get down to it, like the opinion is what creates all the problems. The opinion is what creates the conflict. And it's our choice to have that opinion. It's our choice and our perception of that reality to have that opinion. If we turn around and went, hey, I understand my perception is all of my life experiences that have got me to here to have this viewpoint, yours are different, we cannot expect them to have the same opinion. There's absolutely no way on this planet everybody can have the same opinion. And the sooner we get to that realization, the sooner you're like, you know what? It's not life or death to have this opinion. For me, I'm like, I'll give it up. I'm not interested in holding on to that opinion to create more conflict. And then more importantly, for my client's sake, risk them not getting the house that they want just because I wanted to have an opinion on something. My opinion doesn't get me paid. My advice gets me paid. But so many agents, they have no advice that they're giving. They're just over here holding on to these opinions like they're their life craft.
right. Sometimes you have to have the conversation about unwinding some of that,
Yes.
and what the bigger picture is.
Mhm.
So social media has been really valuable for you, for someone that doesn't have a large sphere to start with. What's some ways you've utilized that to make it really benefit you?
So social media, of course, all my Facebook friends and everything, it was just starting when I moved over here, but they were all from my friends. I grew up in the Middle East, and then, of course, my friends from England. So nobody that was buying and selling a house in North Texas, even remotely. So I was really diligent about any time I met anybody. Are you on Facebook? I don't know a lot of people here. Let me add you. If I saw someone messaging and commenting on a group post something about housing or local, if they looked like they were someone that had a lot of connections, I wanted to connect with them. We as humans, we want community. So I kind of inserted myself into relationships where I felt like I could meet more people, that they looked like an obvious negotiator. Not the person that's like, I don't want to talk to anybody. My Facebook profile screams, don't add me, don't talk. That was not the person I was adding. If it was someone that clearly wanted to tag and do events and meet more people, that was the person I found myself trying to connect with. And then from there, it just kind of spider webbed out so that then, of course, there's no point in posting if no one's seeing it. Then I got real active about sharing my story, sharing my clients' stories as much as you could without confidentiality issues, but just getting where people could see that I was involved in the transformation of, the first time home buyer getting their first keys and the transformation of avoiding foreclosure so that we could get them sold and get them a little bit of money in their pocket and save their credit so they could buy a house when they get back on their feet. Massively into the storytelling because that's what people buy into. So I was very open about Lincoln's heart surgeries. I was very open about when we had Quentin, my youngest, and our IVF with him and everything, because people want to support you. They want to feel like they're involved. We might not necessarily see each other every weekend, but they feel like they are involved.
It's good. Yeah. So social media is definitely, it's been a massive benefit even for me, not even in the retail space, but I go to events now and people are like, "Hey, I recognize you." It's from doing my podcasting and then building that group, even in this sphere with agents.
Yes.
You can take the same principles and apply it to your retail market. And like Facebook page is not going to help you. I hate to start giving other advice, but Facebook pages are totally dead. No one follows them unless
Mhm.
because that's why they make money. You got to pay
Yeah.
to use the Facebook ad in order to be able to create additional exposure. So you're going to have a proper balance on your personal page,
Yes.
between real estate and personal things for people to get to know you.
Yeah.
You want
It's
them to know they sell
definitely.
real estate, but they also want them to connect with you as well.
Yeah, it's definitely pay to play right now. And I lean into a lot of, if I'm showing a friend, I'm going to tag them. We're going to do a selfie in the house. We're going to do a picture of the house. We're going to do a quick video if there's something quirky in the house. I'm very aware not to talk smack about someone's house because heaven forbid, what if they add me on Facebook and then they see me saying something negative about their house, right? That's definitely a fear I have because I've seen that happen to agents. I don't want to play that game. But I'm very much into if I'm out showing houses, I'm going to tag people like, hey, I was in your neighborhood and I saw this house down the road. Or I'm going to Facebook message them and be like, I drove past your house. Hope you're doing good. Just tiny touches. Social media makes that so much easier and just keeps people in the loop where it's a real estate post, but they feel like it's just a life post where it's just you're out doing something like I have the kids, so I might video them playing in the community playground or something. Someone's going to comment, go, where were you? Oh, I was just showing a house in this neighborhood. Cool. So there's like a tiny insert of my real estate life, but they are just focusing on the kids, but it's still there for that subliminal messaging.
So the success that you've had, you've turned that into an opportunity to help other agents as well.
Mhm.
I know I've seen some of the boot camp things that you've created and some of the things that you're putting out there. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you're giving that opportunity back to agents and helping them grow their business and allowing them to be trained and work directly with you? How does that look?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am about to kick off an 8-week boot camp. I'm calling it the 100K Realtor Boot Camp because I feel like a lot of newer agents or maybe agents that want to relaunch and rebrand themselves, that 100K is definitely that. I don't want to say it's that victim mentality, but that's like an invisible success line. So my goal is to help agents get to that 100K mark to create that self-belief in themselves. And of course, 100K is always nice to have. So the boot camp is basically an 8-week course where it's a group setting. It's every week we're going to touch on another angle. And so much of what we talk about is stuff that agents can do for free or nearly free, but it can move the needle for them. And then, of course, from there, they can pick the things they want to focus on. They can pick the things that speak to them. Like that might be open houses, it might be door knocking, it might be calling expireds. Nobody knows which way is the right way, but they can pick through the weeks which one is their thing that they feel adjusts and is comfortable with them. And then just help them move that needle forward where they've got some support and some tools they can actually use.
It's awesome. That's great. So if you want to send me the link, I can include it as part of
Okay.
the thing so people can go there and sign up for it. One other thing, and I mentioned this in the beginning, that you do have a podcast. And I know I've seen a number of your videos and things that you have. You do real life experiences, things that are happening. A lot of it's not real estate. That's great. I mean, you're
Mhm.
connecting with the audience. This is what I'm going through. This is how I deal with it. I think you had one on immigration. because
Yes.
you're going to have your taste, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
obviously came at a point where we're not going through what we're going through here, but you have your
Yes.
story and you did
Hmm.
it the legitimate way. And it really highlights the inefficiency of just letting people pour in the border. And it just makes what you did less valuable. It's like,
Hmm.
I could have cheated the system, right? You have a whole lot
Right.
of opinions about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, it
Um,
was crazy, and it's my goal with my podcast is everybody, you've touched on this a couple times. Everybody's story is unique. Nobody's reality is the same. Nobody's story is the same in so many ways, but we all have areas where we can connect with other people. So my goal with the podcast is just to give other people that light and that hope at the end of the tunnel that if they've been through anything similar to me in my story and they want anything similar to my success, they can see themselves in that and can see a way through it. Because immigration's a battle, having kids is a battle, having kids with medical conditions, having to go through the infertility battle. I mean, we were in that lane for 7 years trying to have our oldest son. So there's lots of people in these different chapters that can relate. And my goal with the podcast is to give them tools and hope to get themselves through whatever it is they're in right now. And they don't have to be a real estate agent. Like I've got other people that I chat to that have never done anything in the real estate lane. I'm just going to naturally connect with realtors more because that's my current business. But my goal is really just to help people level up. And that doesn't necessarily mean build the team or make more money. It might just be they want to level up and be more present and have more quality time with their spouse or their kids or traveling or whatever it is, but just to help them get to that point.
I love it. Like you and I, we've come from completely different backgrounds, but Kirstine, my wife and I, we went through about the same amount of time, probably about 7, 8 years of infertility. And
Mm-hmm.
we tried the IUI method,
Mm-hmm.
which is a method you do prior to doing IVF. And we ended up going into a choice. We could have gone IVF or we could have gone adoption. We chose to go the adoption route. So we
Mm-hmm.
adopted my first son, my only adoption, and he's now 10.
Yeah.
And then we ended up with my niece. She is 9.
Yeah.
My brother just wasn't able to take care of her, so we have her. And then we have 2 little girls that we got pregnant.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a painful time, and I'm sure you remember everyone has a reason or why or what you can do different in
Yeah.
infertility. Try this, try that. And it's either meant to be or it's not. And
Yeah.
when it took us
Absolutely.
adopting Alex in order for some reason for us to take the pressure off. And then we end up getting pregnant with Annalise. And she was born way early, like probably, I think
Oh,
7 weeks early. And now she's a beautiful, healthy 6-year-old little girl and incredibly happy. And then we have our 4-year-old little girl. She came during COVID, so
yeah.
things happen. I mean, we're at an age we weren't intending to have more, but, I'm glad that we are. We're very thankful for it.
Yeah. And
So,
that's the thing, like that's something that we can connect on because that's a very strange battle to be in, right? Like as humans, we feel like that's the only thing we should just be able to do. We should just be able to provide and we should be able to create family. And then when you cannot do those things, that can shake your core, especially when you're in the loving relationship and you have done all the work and you feel like you deserve to have that because you've done all the right things. So it's a weird place to be in. But just on the mindset side, that's the same as somebody that's, maybe been in a job for 30 years and then they lose their job. That's the same for somebody maybe like your friend that you spoke of that's been on the team for 5, 10 years. And then what if he gets suddenly cut from the team? What if they dissolve the team? Like that feeling of like, wait, what now? What do I do with this? That overwhelm, that's the essence of where we can connect with our story with others. Because you may not have the exact same situation. Like you guys went the adoption route with, did you say his name was Alex?
Alex, yeah,
Yeah,
Alexander.
with Alex, that was our next step. Like we had agreed, if this third IVF round doesn't work, I'm not doing it again. Like the medications, the shots, I am so not a needles person. I always told my doctors, I was like, I could never be a heroin addict. I'm terrified of needles.
Yeah.
I was having to inject myself multiple times a day. It was horrible. That messes with me so much more than just dealing with an angry client. Like I was way more willing to call my client, tell them they were $100,000 low on their appraisal, which most agents would be terrified for. I was way happier to do that than I was loading up on hormone drugs. So, you know, it's just relative and perspectives and helping other people find that connection so that they're not alone. You have that connection with them. You can help them see another way. And just those friendships, those connections, they last a long time. This is a long game.
Yeah. And they're stronger and they'll think
Hmm.
of you when those opportunities come up again.
Yeah,
You only need really about 10 or 12 at most raving fans. I mean, you don't have to have 100 plus because they're going to give you multiple opportunities and referrals and they'll always think of you first. So that's what you really want to make sure you always take care of.
absolutely.
You made me think of one other really good hot tip. So when you run into the $100,000 deficiency, agents need to have a solution or next step. We don't drop bombs on our clients without some solution, right? I
Hmm.
always have a next step. Every time my client calls me, and now we're 5 weeks into listing the house, we're not getting showings. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to list this for this amount of time. If we don't, we're going to drop the price. And I tell them
Hmm.
what we're going to do. And they
Yes.
may push back when the time comes. No, let's go another week. But at least we've engaged. We're having the conversation and we're getting realistic about the market is not in our favor to tell it what we need to sell for. Like we need to get
Hmm.
realistic. But I plant those seeds up front. I said, hey, we're not going to just sit and wait. We're going to be active.
Yes.
We're going to be very and proactive. I don't like reactive to everything.
Reactive.
It's
No, I was
terrible.
just gonna say that I hate being the reactive person, and I hate when I shouldn't say hate. Life would be a lot easier if I didn't have a reactive agent on the other side. It's not their fault that they are being reactive. However, I do the same thing. I have a lot of expectation conversations with my clients because if they can be aware of what's coming, one, it sets them up to be best prepared. Two, it sets me up as the expert. And three, I'm now the trusted advisor because they're like, hey, you already know these things might come up. So when they come up, because it's real estate, stuff's going to happen, stuff's going to hit the fan. It has to. It's real estate. When it does, they know they can turn to me and go, "Okay, what do we do now?" Versus they call me and go, it's all happening raw, and they're losing their mind. Like one big thing that I know my clients and I do a little differently, I have them tell me all the time. Like, what's your biggest fear if this happens? What's your biggest concern if that happens? What do you think the buyer is going to think if they show up here and they spend 3 hours chit chatting outside and no one else shows up? What do you think that's going to make the buyer think? Make them tell me. They're probably going to think no one else is seeing the house. And what do you think that in turn is going to make them think about your price? I don't have to sit there and go, dude, your house is overpriced. It's not nice enough for that price point. They're going to tell themselves that. They're not dumb. They just need the questions framed in a certain way where they can position themselves to get the answer. And when they do, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think they might question the price if no one else shows up. What do you think will happen if we do an open house every single weekend instead of a price drop and no one else comes? I agree. They're going to start talking, right? The neighbors are going to start coming out and telling showings, hey, no one ever comes to that house for the open houses. You can probably offer really low. It's not in our favor.
Right. No, and you're saying exactly the right thing, right? Creating the opportunity for them to believe on their own situation instead of
Hmm.
me telling them. Sometimes you have to have buy-in and allow them to walk into that space and
Yes.
believe it because they see it. Last couple things, you have a website that you recommended, the oneyoupodcast.com. Is that the one that you really think you'd like to promote the most?
Um, yeah, I think that one's the best place to get a hold of me. From there, I do have links at the bottom for people to find me for coaching or for real estate or whatever it is. Like I'm on every social. Most people spell my name wrong. So the One You podcast doesn't have my name in it, so people can spell it right. And then from there, we can connect on whatever platform.
It was tempting to say Kirstine, very tempting. I bet you get Kirstine all the time.
I get Kirstine, and then people like look at that last E on my name and they're like, Kirstine, eh? I'm like, eh? No, I'm not from Canada, sweetie. I don't, that's not how I say my name. So it's kind of funny. I get Crystal, and I'm like, I literally have no L's in my name, but okie doke. So I just answer to whatever.
Well, very good. Well, thank you for doing this with me. And I've got your contact. We're going to share that. It's going to be on
Awesome.
Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube. It's going to be on all the channels.
Sweet.
And we'll be able to contact and find you there. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, everyone. I appreciate you jumping in, doing this. For those that are new, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Real Estate Success DFW with Shaune Corbett. And I'm here to help agents grow their business and have a high performance week. Thank you. That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Success DFW. I hope you're leaving with new insights that push your real estate career forward. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with fellow agents who's ready to succeed. And if you're interested in working together or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. reach out to me directly. My personal phone is 214-228-0383. Let's connect and make real estate success happen together. Until next time, keep pushing forward. I'm Shaune Corbett, and this is the Real Estate Success DFW. Have a high performance week.